Welcome to the Big Picture Retirement Show, where you'll learn what it really takes to have a successful retirement. With over 20 years of experience, your host, Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, has seen it all and is here to help you achieve your retirement dreams. This is the Big Picture Retirement Show.
Hello, everyone. Once again, you are listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today and hope you're having a great weekend. On the show today, basically what I'd like to do is, in the spirit of talking about things from that big picture standpoint, what I want to do is talk about a topic that I haven't discussed on the show in a very long time. And I actually want to discuss it in a way where I'm going to share my own personal story and my own personal experience with this particular topic. And I know some of you that are listening to the show right now will be able to relate to it. And some of you listening to the show, if you haven't experienced this or can't relate to it now, will more than likely relate to it later on in life. And what I'm talking about when it comes to your planning process and looking at things from that big picture approach, again, each and every week, we talk about, investments and taxes, we talk about, pensions and how to, maximize your Social Security and all those different things. And at the end of the day, you can have all those things in order, but there's one thing that can throw a monkey wrench in the best or the most well-planned retirement plan or situation that you have going on. Again, you could have, saved a bunch of money in your 401k, got a great pension, Social Security, and all the rest of it coming in and set up pretty good. But there's one thing that can throw a monkey wrench in all of it. And unfortunately, that is going to be long-term care. If God forbid, here's the thing, you hear me talk about the statistics of, people are living longer and longer. The average 65-year-old, has a 75% chance of making it to age 88. People are living 20 years, in some cases 30 years into retirement. Now, just because they're living that much longer doesn't necessarily mean that they're, in the best of health. Maybe they have to live with a chronic illness or some sort of ailment. Maybe they got dementia or Alzheimer's or some sort of chronic back pain or issues where, you need medical attention. You need someone to come in and take care of you, or at the very least, need someone to come in and do some of the heavy lifting that you're not able to do yourself anymore. Now, some of you listening to the show right now have dealt with this with your own parents or family members or grandparents. Some of you are going through it right now. Some of you will be going through it if you haven't dealt with it. And I kind of want to share my own personal experience and what I've gone through and what I've done for my own situation. But also, I want to give you a couple of options as what you can do to protect yourself from these costs. Because again, you could have everything else, again, the investments, the pensions, all that stuff set up nicely. But the one thing that can eat in to all of that is long-term care costs. And the biggest fear for many retirees, there was an insurance company that actually did a study one time or a survey, and they asked retirees, hey, what do you fear more of? Running out of money or death? And over 60%, I believe the number was about 68%, but a large percentage, let's put it this way, feared running out of money more than they feared death. So I'm going to jump in, but before I do, again, if you're just tuning in to the Big Picture Retirement Show, I'm your host, Rick Rivera. If you have any questions about any of the topics that we discuss on the show, but maybe you have a question outside of the topic that I'm talking about today. I'm going to be talking about long-term care and long-term care planning and my own personal experiences with it, with my own mother. But maybe you have a question outside of this topic, and maybe you have specific questions regarding your pensions or Social Security or the investments or how to reduce fees or taxes or your trust and will planning, or maybe you just want a second opinion on your particular situation. Feel free to give us a call, toll free, 800-700-1980, and I'd be happy to answer your questions directly. And we'll be happy to schedule a phone conference, a 15-minute conversation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. But you do have to dial 800-700-1980. You can also reach us on the web at safeguardinvestment.com. Again, that website address is safeguardinvestment.com. And also, tune into our webinars. We do have some webinars that are coming up, and you can watch them from the convenience of your own home. You can, if you give us a call, 800-700-1980, or if you hop on our website at safeguardinvestment.com, we'll be able to give you the times and dates to those webinars. And it's about a half an hour, a lot of good information on those webinars. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. And again, I had people call me up and ask me, about long-term care planning. So I thought it would be a great topic to discuss on the show today and share my own personal experience. And here's the scenario, and I'm going to start off by telling you, some time ago, my own mother had back issues. She had surgery. Unfortunately, the surgery wasn't very successful. So she had her good days and her bad days, but when she had her bad days, they were really bad, and she couldn't even get out of bed. And, when all this first started, she had my dad to, help her and take care of her. But eventually, my dad passed away and he wasn't there anymore. And, my mother's condition certainly did not get any better. It got worse. And she used to live out in Yucca Valley. And I lived, at the time I was living in, I'm trying to think if I was living in Orange County at the time or was I in Riverside County? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But here was the thing. I had to drive about an hour and a half each and every weekend because I had to go and do her grocery shopping, clean up around the house, and try to do some of the heavy lifting that it was just impossible for her to do. Well, as time went on, things were, again, of course, not getting any better for her. And there was one Christmas where I even had to miss spending Christmas with my wife and my kids because my mother, she couldn't travel and her back had gone out again. She had sciatica and her back had gone out and she couldn't even get out of her chair that she sits in. She couldn't even go to the bathroom by herself. Her pain was so bad. So I spent a weekend with her, taking care of her. It was about 3 days because we couldn't get a nurse there during the holidays to help out with her. And it wasn't until after the holidays that we were able to get a nurse to come in and help her out. And at some point it was a scenario where I had to just let her know, hey, listen, Mom, you know what? I got to move you closer to me because I cannot keep making this drive every single week. And especially during the week, because I'm working every single day. And unfortunately, there was nobody else at that time that could really help me with help me with her. I didn't have any siblings that were able to help me with her. So she agreed and moved to Riverside County. And we got her into a senior apartment. And things were going okay for a while. As far as me now, she was closer to me. And I was able to, buy her groceries. I was able to wash her clothes once a week. Things were a lot easier because she wasn't as far. But of course, these chronic issues do not get any better. So as her condition started to decline, the demands on me increased. And it was a lot of pressure on me because, I'm working full time. And at the time that this was going on, I was even getting my MBA at the time. And I had something else going. I mean, it was just so much pressure on me, taking care of my mom, trying to finish up my MBA, working full time. It was just so much pressure. Well, long story short, fortunately, through the grace of God, my mom, when she would go to her doctor visits, they had a social worker assigned to her. And the social worker said, "Hey, Rick, have you ever thought about applying for in-home supportive services for your mother?" And at the time, I had no idea that was even a possibility. Well, in her particular case, because she was only getting Social Security and she didn't really have any assets, her only income was from Social Security, and she didn't have a bunch of money saved up in any kind of 401ks or IRAs, she actually could qualify for in-home supportive services. So because of that, they hired a lady to come in and actually help me with her. So now they actually had someone that could come in and do the cooking, do the cleaning, help me take her to doctor's appointments. I didn't have to do it all the time and have to worry about skipping work or, calling off of work or anything like that. So this lady was it was like a godsend to have this. Now, of course, it isn't free for this service, but here's the thing. How many of you listening to the show right now, again, have great estate planning? You save some money, you got good pensions, good Social Security, and would not qualify for this service. That means that money is coming out of your pocket. And depending upon the level of care that you need, hey, if you just need somebody to come in a few hours a week to do some of the heavy lifting in your home, great. Maybe that's a couple of $1,000 a month, maybe no big deal. But as that level of care needs to be increased, so do those costs. And if, God forbid, we need assisted living or we need long-term care, now we're talking $5,000, $6,000 a month. And if you have dementia or Alzheimer's, now we're talking about care that might cost $8,000 to $10,000 a month. So I'm going to talk about some strategies, a couple of different strategies that you can use to offset these costs in the most efficient way possible. So I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to cover these strategies with you. In the meantime, feel free to give us a call. If you've got a question about any of these topics, 800-700-1980. Again, our toll-free number is 800-700-1980. And I'll finish covering these topics when we come right back.
You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. For more information about Rick and the Safeguard Investment Advisory Group team, go to safeguardinvestment.com. While you're there, you can also download educational retirement guides and sign up for an upcoming seminar. That's safeguardinvestment.com. Now, back to the podcast.
And we're back. You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. Again, our toll-free number is 800-700-1980. Folks, again, if you have questions about any of the topics that I'm talking about on the show today, please feel free to give us a call. Maybe I'm not talking about a specific topic that relates to you right now, but maybe you have a question about some other topic regarding your pensions, Social Security, your 401k, your TSP, your 457. Maybe you have a question about your trust or will planning or taxes, how to maximize every dollar out of Social Security or your pensions and minimize taxes on those things. Give us a call toll free, 800-700-1980. And I'll be happy to answer any of those questions for you directly and maybe even share some ideas about your specific situation that you haven't even thought about before. So let's jump into it. I don't mean to bore you guys with my story regarding my mother and the situation I've been, but I just kind of want to set the stage that, as time went by and her level of care needed to increase, so did those costs every month. And Medicare didn't cover long-term care. Matter of fact, there was one time she was so bad that she couldn't get out of bed that I had to call the ambulance. They took her to the hospital. The hospital couldn't do anything for her. And so they sent her to a nursing home to get physical therapy or see what they can do for her. And, whenever you go as long as the doctor from the hospital recommends she needs to go to a nursing home, they'll take her. But then Medicare only covers that for 90 days. When she hit her 90 day at the nursing home, or it was coming up on the 90 days, I got a call from that nursing home and they said, "Hey, listen, your mom's insurance is about to run out. So, plan on picking her up and taking her home and, We'll give you, a list of the medications and stuff we're giving her, but, you need to come pick her up because her insurance is going to run out pretty soon. And, who can afford to pay $8,000, $10,000 a month to keep somebody in a place like that, especially for a long period of time. So here's the thing. In her particular case, we then had to qualify for Medi-Cal that would pay for these services. Medicare doesn't pay for it. And the only way you're going to get Medi-Cal to pay for that is if you have no money. If you have no assets, you have to spend down your own assets. And this is where I'm saying this is something that can eat into your savings and your retirement planning. You planned everything perfect, but this one little thing can throw a monkey wrench in your whole planning and make you spend down these assets. And then what's left for the surviving spouse if it's all eaten up to, medical costs because health insurance doesn't cover it or Medicare doesn't cover it. So now there are plans out there because, one of the big pet peeves about long-term care, traditional long-term care insurance is that, you make a premium payment and they're not cheap. Long-term care insurance is not cheap to get. Obviously, the younger you are when you start doing this type of planning, the better it is, but it's not cheap. And, you pay a premium every month or every year. And let's say, God forbid, you never use it. Guess what? You don't get the money back that you paid into it. And let's just say, you decide, hey, listen, you know what? I'm just going to cancel this thing. I don't need it or I don't want it anymore. Premiums are just too expensive. Well, if you cancel it and you never used it, you don't get the money back. And if you pass away and never used it, the family doesn't get the money back that you didn't use. So now, the big thing now is there are actually plans out there that allow you to get the money back if you don't use it. Let's say, for example, you put X amount of dollars into it, and at the end of the day, you decide, for whatever reason, let's just say Medicare or health insurance, all of a sudden the rules change and they decide we're going to cover long-term care, and you didn't use it, you can get your money back out of it. If you pass away, you never used it, there's a tax-free death benefit that goes to your family, so you don't lose the money, they don't lose the money. And if you decide to cancel at any time, if you decide to cancel it or whatever, you can pull your money out. That's not a problem. You earn like a little bit of savings account interest on the money. But if you do need long-term care, somebody to come and do some of the heavy lifting, this could be a lifesaver financially for you because it's going to cover long-term care. Many people want to stay in their home. It'll cover in-home care. Maybe somebody needs assisted living. It'll cover assisted living. So there are many ways in which you can skin this cat without necessarily purchasing long-term care insurance, or I should say, without purchasing traditional long-term care insurance. And, I'll give you an example of kind of how it would work. There's many people that, have money just sitting in a savings account or CDs and, they're really not touching it. It's really for just a rainy day. And let's say you're out there and you got, 200 grand just sitting in an account and it's not doing nothing and it's sitting in a CD or savings earning you 1% just sitting there for a rainy day. Well, depending upon your age and health and all the rest of it, you may be able to take 50,000 of that money or 100,000, again, depending on age, and put it into a plan that now takes your 50,000 and day one for long-term care, it's going to be worth $100,000 for you towards long-term care. And if you pass away and you didn't use it for long-term care, it's worth $100,000 tax-free to your beneficiaries. But if you decide to cancel at any point in time, you can get your money back out, plus a little bit of interest, like savings account interest. Again, nothing to write home about, but you can get your money back out of it. So the way you can design it is around your specific situation. Let's say you have a good income coming in and you're like, hey, listen, you know what? I don't want to overinsure, but I know if I could, comfortably afford $2,000 a month, let's just say, to cover something like this out of my own pocket without, breaking the bank, then maybe you have the insurance to just do the heavy lifting. So maybe you purchase yourself enough that covers you for $5,000 a month. And, with the other $2,000, you got $7,000 a month coverage. And, we can play it however you want. But bottom line, what I want you to understand, there are several different strategies that can be used in order to protect yourself from these expenses without using traditional long-term care insurance. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the traditional long-term care insurance. For some people, that's probably a great way to go. But there's a variety of other strategies that you can use in order to cover yourself from this without losing your money or feel like you're throwing it away in a trash can, so to speak. Because let's face it, with insurance, once you make those payments, you don't get that money back if you don't use it. Just like when you whether it be fire insurance or car insurance or all these other things that we get, we pay in, but, we never get anything back out of it. And the same thing with traditional long-term care insurance. You could pay into this thing for years and years and years, and if you never use it, you get nothing out of it. But if you can do this in a way where you don't lose any money and protect your overall estate to where you don't have to spend it down, and God forbid, you don't have to spend it down and leave your spouse almost destitute after you pass on because all the money was eaten up by medical costs. And now what's the surviving spouse supposed to do? Now she's got to sell the home, downsize, move in with the kids because the spouse that was in a long-term care facility ate up all the assets. I see this all the time. Now, unfortunately, the show goes by so fast. And there's countless ways, you can skin this cat. If you want to know the different ways on which you can handle this particular problem, and sometimes we can combine several different solutions into one to really make it fit you like a glove and how it would work in your situation, it can't hurt just to find out what your options are. Give me a call, toll free, 800-700-1980, and I'll cover those options with you. And I'll be able to go into more detail that unfortunately, because of the time on the show, I just can't. There's just too many intricacies. But if you give us a call right now, toll free 800-700-1980, I'll cover those details with you. And if you have questions outside of long-term care plan that I was talking about today, maybe you have questions about your investments. Maybe some of you work for Kaiser and you have questions about your pensions or your 401k plan. Maybe you work for an electric company, you have questions about your pensions. Maybe you work for the county and you got questions about the 457 plan. Give me a call, toll free, 800-700-1980. You can also reach us on the web at safeguardinvestment.com. Again, these shows seem to go by so fast. I'll be looking forward to talking to all of you next week. We also appreciate any input that you have on the show. If you have any input that you'd like to give us or any topics you'd like me to cover, again, feel free to give me a call, toll free, 800-700-1980. Again, you're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. Thank you so much for listening, folks. Looking forward to talking to you again next week.
Firm offers insurance services. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is a registered investment advisory firm. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC. This radio show is a paid placement.